Welcome to Pitch in the Zone, a weekly gathering of coaches that meet to help a presenter improve a 3-minute pitch. Our coaches, as every week, include Nathan Gold, hailing from San Francisco. His specialty is high-stake presentation coaching. We have Rick Pollack joining us from Boston, Massachusetts. Rick is a communication trainer who has taught and trained people in corporations, TEDx speakers, and so on. We have Michael Marchak in Chicago. Michael is a CTO, an author, a speaker, and also an angel investor. We also have Massimo Peroncelli. He joins us from Thailand. Massimo is a serial entrepreneur. He also doubles as our timer. And as always, brought his very, very keen eye for details. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of the feedback as every week. And then, of course, Scotty Spursum. Scotty hails from San Francisco as well. She's a pitch coach with a focus on language development and accent reduction. And then we have a couple of returning guests, Liederman, Duin, and Scott Peak are joining us today. And originally, we didn't have a presenter for today. He had to cancel at the very, very last moment. So Debbie Kusik, she stepped up the plate. And so today, Debbie will return to Pitch in the Zone as a presenter. Debbie, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Claudio.
And your audience is going to be?
We'll have the audience be, people that work in technology, like executives, chief information officers, chief security officers, IT managers, those that, need to stay up on technology to do their jobs.
Excellent. Excellent. So today it's more of a customer or consumer type presentation, not necessarily an investor presentation. So Debbie, whenever you are ready, let's see how you can convince us that your platform is worth a daily visit. Debbie,
thank you.
Is yours.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, so you let me know if you can see that. Okay, well, I have a platform called TeckedIn.com, and what we do is we curate, collect, share, and categorize business technology content. So for example, every Sunday, we put out our weekly updates, and we do this in 3 different categories. You are looking at privacy and security, but we also have an AI and automation one, and we have a data and analytics. So what we've done is we show the upcoming webinars for this category. We show the last week's tech news, we show the analysis and reports and trends, and then we have a whole section of blogs. And everything you're seeing here is from our site. So if you think about it, when you go to a website and you go to their homepage, be it a technology one, and you see a story, well, if you go check that 2 days from now, that story's gone. And for you to get to it again, it's, in their pages and so on. And what we're doing is we're capturing this every day so that if you don't even have a chance to go get updated, when you come to our site, you're going to have links to all these stories that now have gone, way in deep into other people's websites. And so that's really the value of our site, is that you don't have to worry about keeping up on technology, fear of missing out of what you might have missed. And so we hope that you'll come to our site on a regular basis. We have content from numerous places we go to every morning, and we have no opt-ins, we have no logins. So every link that you see here, we've gone to ourselves. You will never be asked for an opt-in. And so that's what we're trying to give you, is information without all the busyness, all of the opt-ins. And we don't want your email. We don't want any email addresses. So it makes it really nice for us to not to have to worry about collecting data or personal information. So I hope you'll go look at our site. It's TeckedIn.com right here. And thank you for your time today.
So this was really really good. You came in quite a lot under 3 minutes, and for such an impromptu presentation, I mean, I asked you 1 minute before we started if you would want to present today, and you jumped on it. And for that, I think it was a really really good pitch. What I enjoyed the most of it is your conversational style. You become more and more conversational with every time that I hear your pitch. The visuals, well, we can talk a little bit about that. And there are certainly some things that you potentially could add just to add a little bit curiosity into the whole thing, that people actually go like, oh, I've got to go and see what she's talking about. But again, in general, I really, really liked this, especially on such a short notice. I'm curious how all the other coaches think about this. So let me start with Michael. Michael,
Thank you,
what
Clever.
was your impression?
I totally agree. And I think, Debbie, I think your conversational tone is very comfortable. You feel very comfortable, even you said being asked on the spot to do it. I don't know how much of that is because you are familiar with us now a little bit more, and you know that may be an easier way to come about it rather than to have a number of strangers who you're talking to you've never met before and having to do this a minute beforehand. It may be a slightly different impact. But I think the conversational tone, if you could keep that in your conversations with strangers or folks you are truly pitching to, I think that would be great. So I had a couple questions as a consumer of this. Which sites, how do you prioritize the sites? Because you really don't really go into that, how you select which sites you go from. Back in the day, there was these trade rags called the Weekly World News. And they always had this child alien on the front of it. And it was a newspaper, but everyone knew it was not necessarily the most accurate news. So in this day and age of fake news and or sensationalization of things, how do you choose which sites to choose to pick from that are not necessarily marketing specific things or actually providing more newsworthy kind of activities? And another one is how do you prioritize this to help you say that, here's a ranking system for these are the more trustworthy news sites, and or are these the more important news? If you're looking at blockchain, you really should see these particular stories because this past week they were very impactful versus they were stuck in with the other 50 other stories about blockchain that may get shuffled out. So those are the kind of questions I would be asking to understand how you curate this content, because it's coming every week like a newspaper, but people who are in the news business have to understand how to sort that news and present the most important or the most prioritized news. So didn't really get into how you do that, but I'd be interested to find out.
Okay, yes, so pretty much just we have a set of websites that we built up, and we go to every single one every morning. So we go to about 15 of those every morning and get the latest story. And then I'm using a curation tool called Up Content. And so it goes out there and it grabs things from us from all over the place. And so then we go into our collection that they've given us for the day, and we pick other news stories from those. And then what we do is we make sure that everything has a share. If something doesn't have a share, it doesn't come into our platform. If the link has a pop-up, it doesn't come into our platform. So I would just say, I would guess, we're ZDNet, Silicon Angle, VentureBeat, AI Authority, Datanami. I mean, all these ones that have come to look like they really have good data and stories is the ones that we go to, and that's how we're curating it right now.
I would think you want to highlight those things. That's, where we're going to these major sites where you probably go to now, but maybe you've missed some of the news, and then really highlight those points about how you're pulling that news in and how you're curating it. You don't have to go into the details of how, but the fact that you are doing that makes this not just a aggregation site, but a curated site, which is a little different.
Okay, thank you.
Great question there, Michael. And it's all these questions, right, that people have after your pitch that leads you to the area that you need to fine tune a little bit more to make it clearer, because you can answer those type of questions already during the pitch, especially because you did even have some time left, Debbie. So moving on, Scotty. Scotty, what kind of feedback do you have for Debbie?
Sure. Yeah, and again, Debbie, great job just on the spot. You have to, it's great to be able to do it. And if you go back, take some time and look at your other presentations and then look at this one, and you'll see it as clearly as we do. So good job. One thing, building on what Michael was talking about, is it free to me, a fee to me? Is it, how do I get on? Like I have this curated, I have a site called TeckedIn, but it didn't pop out at me. It's like, oh, where's the login? Because, people might want to log in right while they're talking to you to take a quick look at it. The other thing I was thinking about is that, and I'm obviously not the most high-tech savvy person in this group, but I just figured out how to save stories on LinkedIn, because I have this, it's so frustrating. You see something pop up and you go to a different page for a minute and you come back and it's gone and nothing's in chronological order. And a friend of my son's works at LinkedIn, and I said, okay, I have this beef with this. And he said, well, there's a saved button there. So I haven't tried it yet, but at least there's that option. And Nathan's laughing, but I'm learning all the time. So I don't know if you have a save button there, or if there's some other aspect to your aggregation that makes it an even better tool than following. So, like I follow clients, I follow certain stories, and then I wait for them to aggregate in my inbox. And then when I'm about to meet with somebody or when I'm looking at that data, I'll pull from those. If you have an even more elegant way to save them and come to them, that would be interesting to know. And then also, are you comfortable highlighting, like you talked about your up content service? I don't know if that's well known in the industry, but maybe you market that, maybe you don't. Maybe you say we work with an aggregation service, and then we cull it even further, finding our best sources are the ones with, and I don't know why no pop-ups are better than ones with pop-ups for industry data. So, so like maybe it's the marketing of, we do ZDNet, typically ZDNet, Silicon Angel, and these forums. If you're looking at them anyway, take a look at our page first. It comes out Sundays at 12 Eastern time. And we were really developed as a service for you. And why you? Like, why did you decide to develop this service? I still think a little bit of that makes it interesting for the user to know that you are the one to be able to curate this and aggregate this data for me.
That's really good points. Thank you very much. Yours and Michael's, that gives me a lot of ideas.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks much, Scotty. And moving on to Nathan. Nathan, what's your feedback?
Okay, so just as Scotty's saying she's not the most technical person in the room, and I guess I consider myself a fairly technical person, I'm always learning too, Scotty. Just yesterday, I learned of something I've always known about that I think would have helped Debbie today in terms of what happened with her screens. In the PC world, it's called virtual desktop. I don't know what they call it in the Mac world, but when you create a virtual desktop, which is so easy, it's just completely clean. Nothing is there except what you put in there. So you can have your normal desktop with everything going on, and then you set up this other one with just the pieces you want to use for that meeting. And while I am beginning to now experiment with it over the last 24 hours, I'm surprised I haven't used this tool in my past. So Debbie, let's check that out together.
Interesting.
Yep, virtual desktop, and Michael can probably give us a demo right now, but it's so simple to use. It's amazing. I actually ran into that accidentally recently. Something all disappeared and it was like blank screens everywhere, and I know what the hell was going on. That was what it was. Okay, so I very much like your rule of 3 where you say curate, collect, and share. That's a really powerful statement. You can change the impact of that statement to probably double or triple it by just adding something onto the end of it, which is the benefit of that curation, collection, and sharing, blah, 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 so that you, blah, 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 blah. I didn't hear the other part of it, but if you just tell me the reason why you're curating, collecting, and sharing, in my view, that would just pop that, make it bigger. When you talk about, we bring a summary that stays around and it's always available so that the next time, blah, blah, I think that's a really powerful point. And it might be even more powerful if you started with, unlike typical e-newsletters. Because I don't know if other newsletters interact or work the way you do, but it sounds like that might be part of your secret sauce. I might be making it up, but that's what it sounded like. One or two more things here to give time to the others. We hope you will come to our site on a regular basis is weak. The word hope, got to come up with a better word there. I'll leave that in your hands, but there's better words that we can come up. No login, no opt-in, no ads. Huh? What? Really? Oh, wow, that's very powerful. Now, I think Scotty missed this. There is no login. So you need to make a bigger deal about the fact there's no logins, there's no opt-ins. But at the same time, I think it's important that you tell us, okay, well, what are you doing this pro bono, or how do you make money? Not that you have to tell us the details behind how you make money, but if you're telling me you want me to come to my site and you're not asking for my login, my email, no this, no that, well, what's the catch? In my mind is like, what's the catch? And if it's free, like really free, like pro bono, like all the way through, then make a big deal about that. And then that's it. Well done. Really super. I mean, I'm so excited
Thank
that
you,
you were
Nathan.
willing to take it on. I hope that you bottle up the feelings that you had as things were not working properly at the beginning, and just realize that it happens and can happen to any of us and all of us. And all we need to do now is maybe look at a way that you can shorten up the time that it took you to get ready. That's all. Good work.
Thank you, Nathan.
You're welcome.
Great feedback as always, Nathan, especially the catch with the hope. I think that one also on my side, it immediately jumped out as something, and a good way to get around those kind of words is to totally change it and ask the audience something like, if you want to stay on top of the news, do this. Go visit the website or whatever you want them to do, but lead it with, if you want blah, 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 then blah, 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 is a very, very easy kind of a formula to get around that. I hope you will. All right, Rick, what kind of feedback do you have for Debbie?
All right. Debbie, very relaxed, and I don't want to repeat everyone's comments. I agree with everyone's comments, but I think just a couple things to add on. To me, and from the previous presentations you've given, it's the no opt-in, the privacy aspect. And I mean, these are people in IT, so they're very familiar with privacy and people stealing their information. So, you talked about that. I think you waited maybe a little too long to talk about it. I think a lot of people are saying, well, how is this different? And it's like always opt in and people don't want to do that. And I think you've mentioned that before, and just in a quick impromptu thing, it's not a problem. But I think from what Michael and Scotty had said also, and from the other comments, is one thing that I was thinking of is that if you give your information up to a ZNet or a IT World or whatever else, and they start sending you stories, besides that, they might have some kind of advertiser sponsored things that puts things up on the top. So you are curating things fairly. You're not being influenced by advertisers on that. So I think that's something that me as a tech person, that I would want to say, hey, there is no bias in the curating of the stories here. These are stories, and I know I can't set up a profile. I guess that's probably one thing about signing up, is I can customize a profile for the stories. But you're saying, no, you're private, you pick the stories you want, but we're not prioritizing stories based on an advertiser giving us money to prioritize things. And I think that's an important point, that the audience you were talking about, the IT managers, the CIOs, they would know that you're not trying to pick, read this article on blockchain, not because it's the best one, it's because someone sponsored it. So I think that's an important point to make. And that kind of ties into what Scotty was mentioning too, that here's our business model. We don't take sponsorships. We're not collecting your email address. We're not taking money from manufacturers or advertisers to sponsor their stories and put them on the top. But then you're going to say, here's how we make the money. So I think that just makes it the overall takeaway for someone watching the presentation is, I'm going to get stories that are curated, but not prioritize based on someone else's interests. And I don't have to give up my personal information. But it's great. I love the conversational style, and from from the time you had to prepare, I really think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Rick. No, that's really helpful, because that is one of the things we have is all of our content is in by date, but then we categorize it so that you can sort it. But other than that, we don't have any algorithms or bias. It's just in there first in, first out, or first, So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Really good. All valuable feedback, which gets me to Massimo. Massimo, what kind of feedback do you have for Debbie today?
Yes, thank you. Well, Debbie, I love the fact that you started with what it is. Usually in our presentation, we start with the problem and then we explain the solution. But in this case, I think it works better to immediately say what it is. And I love that, because in 3 seconds, I knew what it was. So to me, that was a good way to start it, instead of losing time of explaining what it is not. So since you're expecting some details from me, 2 of them. One, you started with, I have a website and we do this and that. So I was kind of confused. Is it you or we? And you never mentioned who you are, or who you, meaning you as a single person, or you as your team, who you are. So that was kind of confusing to decide who you were referring to. And the second one, on the top left of your PDF, you have the date, which to me, it meant the 1st of September of this year. Because I understand from the States, but even if we remove China and India, still more than 50% of people do not write the date in that format. So I would suggest to use the month name instead of the number, so that there will be no confusion at all. Because if I open that file maybe in 2 days from now, I personally will be confused, even though I lived in the States. So a small modification in the date, put the month name and not the number. So just a small detail. But congratulations for the and not being afraid of jumping into the spotlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Massimo.
Thanks, Massimo. Great feedback as always as well. And we have our returning participants, Liederman. It's so good to see you. I almost didn't recognize you today. Slightly different look. What kind of feedback do you have for Debbie?
Yeah, Debbie, I think it was great. Honestly, you were so relaxed and so comfortable that I could already tell from the very beginning, your stuff, what you're talking about. You are a master of your domain. So that was really good. I agree with a lot of the things. I'm going to boil it down to 2 things. Basically, I think that you told us what you do and how you do it, but you didn't tell us why you do it and why I should care. That's where I think you can improve a little bit. Why not log in? Why is that important? What is your experience? Why do you think that matters? That it's, and why are you aggregating all of these for us? Wow, that's wonderful. Comes out of your heart. I really like that. But is that it? Is that, like Nathan was saying? And then why should I care? You talked about aggregating the content, but is that content that I even care about? Why is that important to me? I think those are the 2 things that I think you can improve on, and it's a really good presentation. It flows. It's simple for you. So that is already, I think you already engaged the person very easily with that conversation you had. And I think that if you add the why and the why should I care, I think it's a very powerful presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Liederman.
Thanks, Liederman. And before I move on to Scott, I want to just quickly circle back, because Scotty left a really, really good comment. And since Liederman was just talking about what you can add, here is another one that you could add. Scotty, do you want to quickly take it?
Sure. I was just wondering, how many visitors come to your site, and if there's any history of how that's built up because of your your expertise in aggregating this data, because I'm assuming this audience has to look at this stuff daily. Right?
Right. And then also, for example, like I have almost 8,000 LinkedIn connections, and probably 80% of them are on the tech side, the chief information. So that's why I put out those PDFs right in LinkedIn. So we do a lot of stuff that's outside of the platform to bring people to the platform. And so that your question, that, you know, we definitely see all that, and we can tell who's opening up our PDFs and who's viewing, and we have all those metrics too. So
and again, getting back to why you I don't think it's a nonprofit, but like what inspired you to do this? And we've talked about this before, but from your own frustration in the industry, and maybe that's a piece that could come in there.
Sure. So like what Liederman was saying too, like the why. So you're saying I should go ahead and just kind of say, before, I think in my past ones, I talked about how I've been both a buyer and a seller. And so revisit that a bit, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Great feedback. Good addition there as well. And to me, Debbie, you know, traction is such an important thing. We all know the saying, success breeds success. In marketing, people want what other people have, or people want to do what other people are doing. And so if you do have traction, if you do have some numbers, and especially, you know, the stickiness in terms of returned visitors, I would definitely recommend to add some of that data into the pitch, whether, you know, it's with slide or without a slide, but to give people some idea of the traction that you already have. And that gets me to Scott. Oh, yeah, Scotty, please come back.
Sorry, just one more thing. I just popped onto LinkedIn really quickly and looked you up, Debbie Krizik, and it says one connection. Debbie hasn't posted lately.
It's interesting. Yeah, no. It might just be under something strange there, because I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would think so too. I just popped your name in quickly. Huh. Okay.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. Hey, one connection. Okay. I'll have to try that myself, Scotty.
Okay. I'll send you a screenshot. Okay.
Interesting, because I am connected with Debbie, of course, on LinkedIn, and you know, there isn't a day that she's not posting. So yeah, absolutely. And finally, Scott, what kind of feedback do you have? You've been in Debbie's role a couple times already. What was your impression listening to Debbie today?
Well, first of all, Debbie, you saved the day, and I was sitting there sweating like when they offered it up. I thought, "Oh, Debbie, come on!" You took it on. But Nathan made a good point early on about being ready, and you jumped in there, and you know, I sat there thinking myself, I should have probably offered up too, but I wasn't ready for it today. So, and that's a good point. You got to be ready when the time comes, when you're put on the opportunity to say something. But the only thing I had down here that someone else, what Scotty just put in the comments, was the stats and why and how many people are benefiting from it. And I think that would be a really good point to make sure that people understand that. And I've even gone in there, you know, we've chatted on LinkedIn, and I've seen some things and actually used some items that you've put out there. So there's definitely success in what you're putting out.
Thank you, Scott.
But thank you for taking charge today. You're going to take over my lead here. I got to get people on here to take over.
Fabulous. So thanks everybody for your valuable feedback. Again, thanks Debbie for jumping in at such a last moment. And of course, thanks to all of the returning participants, as well as anybody who is watching this as a replay. Thank you very much. And if you do enjoy what you're seeing, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, click like on the video, and of course, share it with your friends who you think might benefit from these type of sessions as well. And speaking of that, we do have a couple open slots for the next 2 weeks. We have presenters lined up. after that, our calendar is wide open. So if you feel that this could be something that helps you to fine tune your presentation, to hone your pitching skills, please go to the website that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen here, presenterzone.com/pitch request. And that gets us to the end of today's session. Again, thanks to everybody who makes these happen. I wish you all a fabulous day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we shall see each other again next week. Bye.